crew on a mission, an actress's big break. The only thing between them and their dreams is a giant gorilla. All this telling me one thing. We're comparing King Kong on this episode of Retro versus Remake. I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro vs. Remake. This is the series where we compare movies to their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's films are King Kong. Dun, dun, dun.
Absolutely. King Kong 1933, starring Fay Wray, Robert Armstrong, Bruce Cabot, Frank Riker, Sam Hardy, Noble Johnson, Steve Clemente, and Victor Wong. Directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack. Screenplay by James Ashmore Creelman and Ruth Rose. The music by Max Steiner. King Kong 1976, starring Jeff Bridges, the Dude Abides, Jessica Lange, Charles Grodin, John Rudolph, Renee Auberjonois, Ed Lauter, Julius Harris, Jack O'Halloran, and Peter Cullen as the voice of King Kong, uncredited. Directed by John Guillermin, screenplay by Lorenzo Semple Jr., and music by John Barry. Dan, what is your first experience with King Kong?
My first experience with these particular King Kong films is mostly for this podcast. I had absolutely never seen the original King Kong. It's definitely, probably at this point in my life, it's the earliest film I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen anything as early as 1933. The remake, I haven't really seen either, but I have maybe, come across it when it's been on like cable back in the day. And I always came across the same scene where King Kong's kind of undressing Jessica Lange. For some reason, every time, it was just, I always just happened to come across that scene. So that's the most experience I've had with either film.
A weird superpower.
I go right to the nude scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, same for me. Like pretty much my experience with these films was for this podcast. I do have a photo, and I'm going to try to add that to this. To this, I have a photo of myself at Universal Studios at the King Kong ride with my dad.
There you go, right? And you get to pose in the King Kong's hand.
You're like,
yeah. I went on that same ride too, in 1994. Nice.
Yeah, probably around the same time. Yeah, 94. That's about right. I was pretty young, and even that was a pretty cool effect. And I'm sure we'll be talking about effects quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So, being that this was our first real experience watching these Kong films, I'll break it down with a quick synopsis. A seafaring crew of men set out on an expedition to an exotic location in hopes of attaining riches. Their ranks are joined by an aspiring actress. As the only woman on the ship, many are smitten by her, but she forms a relationship with Jack. Their relationship hits a snag when the crew arrives at their island destination. They encounter a group of natives that worship a mysterious god known as Kong. The natives are in wonder of the actress's beauty and want her as an offering to Kong. When the crew rejects this request, the actress is kidnapped at nightfall. She's placed on an altar, and Kong, revealed to be a colossal ape, grabs her from the altar and departs back into the jungle. Jack and some volunteers enter the jungle in hopes of rescuing her. Most don't survive the dangerous rescue mission. Kong takes the actress back to his lair. However, the actress and Kong are attacked in the jungle by another monumental animal. The great ape defends her from harm. While Kong is distracted, Jack rescues the actress and the ape gives chase. The remaining crew manage to trap Kong and decide to bring him back to New York City. Their original plan may be a bust, but this crew knows that Kong would be a major attraction in the city. When they arrive, King Kong is shackled in chains and displayed to the masses. The actress is swarmed by members of the press, and the great ape, confused by the hubbub and flash photography, thinks she's in danger. Enraged, Kong breaks his chains as the audience flees in terror and the actress is whisked away. Kong rampages through the city and is able to locate the actress. He then continues his rampage, but now with the actress in his grip. They scale a large, iconic building. Kong is attacked with weapons and aircraft and is overwhelmed. The great Kong is slain. Jack, the actress, and a large crowd gawk at Kong's corpse as each film ends their respective ways. One name. I got one name I got teased.
Hey, Jackie boy.
Boy, how you doing? But yeah, that's it. A crew
That is
goes
it.
to an island. There's a big monkey, and
Bring it
yeah,
back to New York, and hilarity ensues.
exactly.
So where do you want to start with this comparison, Reggie?
So, as much as we can talk about the different plots because they diverge a bit here. I think it is important to talk about the sort of the star attraction, the big gorilla, ape, monkey, King Kong.
Yeah.
Don't hurt me, James, at all. So 1933 is a very different time than 1976 when it comes to practical effects. My take on that was that in 1933, we're pretty much looking at what stop motion. I'm not even sure what material is. Is it a puppet? Like what is that?
I'm assuming it's some type of puppet that the puppeteers and stop motion teams just able to manipulate and move to get the different shots in order to make it look like it's moving. So yeah, it's overall just stop motion, and then some of the close-up shots of the actress when he's holding her, like I think they built hands for
Yeah.
Kong for her to be in, but other than that, it's mostly just stop motion.
For the time, it translates, right? Like it does look like there's a giant gorilla. The stop motion is a little janky. So yeah, most people with like any kind of stop motion experience could probably make a film that sort of flows more in terms of action. But it works, right? Like
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't look great, but it is, giving me the scope and scale. And I was actually pretty impressed by that from that film.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, of course, by today's standards, you can tell it's like, okay, that doesn't look great. But for what they're working with at the time, it definitely is able to, get the story told. And I'm not like constantly like taken out of the film, like, oh, that's clearly not real. You definitely give it a lot of slack for being made in the 1933. This movie's almost 90 years old, so I'm not going to be too judgy when it comes to the special effects. But they're able to do a lot of really creative things. The way they're able to combine the stop motion with the live action, using sometimes just having the actors actually be like just puppets themselves, or just combining stop motion with some rear projection screen footage. Really creative ways to put the live actors in the same shot as Kong. And as someone who makes very amateur movies on my own YouTube channel, I just find the whole process fascinating. I am sitting there trying to figure out exactly how they did it. Okay, so that part's stop motion, and that's the rear screen projection that they're using right there. So it's really just an interesting film to study overall. If you have any filmmaking aspirations or anything, I definitely highly recommend just watching what they did. It's so creative how they're able to really combine the live action, the stop motion.
Yeah, I think like where the movie struggles is when it's trying to do sort of like fluid action. But you're right, that transition between the live action and stop motion works really well. Some of the sets they design, like we talked about iconic buildings. Hey, looks like a gorilla is on that building. And they have little, that iconic scene of the planes flying by and taking their shots at Kong. And I thought it looked really good. A major difference that I'm sure we're going to talk about is that there are other animals on this Skull Island in the original that Kong has to deal with, like a freaking dinosaur.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Land of the Lost in the original film. You fight like, I think it was a Stegosaurus, definitely a pterodactyl, some type of lizard, a T-Rex. I mean, a fucking T-Rex. I was like, damn, I didn't expect that. Like I said, I'd never seen these films before, so I just assumed since this is really early stop motion that they were going to just show Kong, maybe another creature, but they went all out with this original film. They have so many dinosaur fights, so many fights with Kong and different animals. It makes you understand why he's called King Kong, because this man, this is a very violent Kong. I'd say he's definitely more violent than the one we actually see in the remake, because he just fights all these different animals, and his favorite fatality is just to put his hands in the mouth and just separate jaw from their skull. It's like, damn, it's pretty gruesome. You see the blood coming out of the animals too. Did not expect that in this film at all.
No, I wasn't expecting that. At first, I was like, "Oh, freaking dinosaur!" But then, when you think about it, it's like, all right, well, T-Rex is already kind of established as like a badass, and Kong's just like, get the fuck out of here. If I'm Godzilla in this movie coming out, I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Kong's got some experience.
Yeah, he's taking out all your cousins over there, Godzilla. He knows how to fight the dinosaurs.
But
beware.
Oh, absolutely. And you make a great point that like this is a violent sort of Kong. This is there isn't really a lot of understanding with humans and stuff like that. I think in the 76 film, they do some different things to try to humanize their version of Kong. That is not really here in this original. And I think if you're going to have an island where people are living amongst dinosaurs, for them to choose, hey, actually, the big gorilla is what I'm worried about. That says something. And I think it worked really well. And actually, I don't follow a lot of King Kong stuff, but I know it's part of like the lore of this like Skull Island that they have in the original, and comes back in different interesting ways in the other films, from what I understand. So pretty cool little universe building, whether that was intentional or not.
And you could also, like, I sort of also interpreted it as he's sort of their protector of the natives on the island, because, they give him the sacrifice, and then he's also fighting all these other dinosaurs, which could easily kill them too. But they decide to, give Kong, the sacrifice. So he'll leave them alone, and he'll take care of any other dinosaurs that kind of in his own, that are like against him, like for his own needs, like for his own purposes. Like, I'm gonna take these out, but it also helps the natives too, like inadvertently. So they kind of look up to him and respect him for helping them not be eaten by dinosaurs in a way.
Yeah. So it's really cool what they're able to do with their limited sort of resources, and like you mentioned, just the pure creativity of basically like making this iconic movie. I don't even know what monster figure star, like I don't know, but like King Kong has withstood the test of time to the point that like literally he's close to top billing in a movie coming out like in a couple weeks. I guess
a couple days, dude.
Yeah. Movie coming out in a couple of days. That's insane, man.
Yeah, for like I said, a character that's almost 90 years old and still be incredibly relevant. I'm gonna watch King Kong vs. Godzilla.
1976, I think I start to kind of get reminded of like The Thing almost. Like we start to get to this point where a lot of the cool practical effects and like set building help to make this film really pop. There's a lot of gorilla hands, kind of like that Universal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they just took the actual hands from the movie and just like put them in Universal Studios.
Yeah, like we get some animatronics here. We get more of a focus on that and actually building out the scale versus trying to sort of imitate the scale. And it's another effective use of this sort of movie magic. And I think that it's really impressive that they went as far as they did to sort of make this Kong come alive.
The eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
Yeah, so the main difference with the Kong in the remake is it is pretty much a dude in a gorilla suit. I mean, that's a simplification of things. There's a lot of animatronics going on. There's animatronics for the facial expressions. I think the hands are actually extended to give him the proper, just the look of the longer gorilla arms. So there's a lot of animatronics going on, but it is a dude in a suit. So that did kind of like take me out of it a little bit. It's like, oh, it's just a dude in a suit. But I guess that makes sense. You don't want to do the exact same thing that they did in the original film. Why even make the film if you're going to do the exact same thing? But they did build 2 gorilla arms that are like close to a ton each.
Wow.
Yeah, so they definitely went all out. I'm pretty sure they also built a 40-foot tall Kong figure
Mm.
that I think might have been used at that end shot in New York when he's in that cage. But they didn't really use it more than a minute in the actual film. So they built a lot of huge animatronic things for this film, in addition to the guy in the gorilla suit.
Yeah, and that helps because if it's just a guy in the gorilla suit, I mean, that's a rough watch, I think.
Yeah, animatronics definitely save it from just being incredibly cheesy, especially because the limitations of the original film was mostly Kong's facial expressions,
Mhm.
and the animatronics in the remake definitely allow us to see Kong emote a lot more and make us more sympathetic to his character, which I think is kind of what the remake does a lot more than the original film.
Yeah, in some confusing ways, but it's 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 definitely pretty expressive because like in the original film, it's kind of like two modes, right? There's like chill Kong, which is just like the gorilla face, unmoved, and then that like crazy, like I'm
Don't
upset.
touch my girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I think the emotion definitely comes into play as we'll discuss. There's a lot more interaction, like actual talking to Kong that
Yeah.
happens in this remake that though Kong's not able to necessarily respond, we do get to see sort of how he conducts himself in a way that is it's meaningful. I think that if you were to ask like an audience which Kong would you relate to more, I think it would have to be the remake because they tried it so much to make him, you know, empathetic in ways, which I wasn't expecting. Was not expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely gave him a lot more one-on-one time with the lead actress in the remake, and she's able to, I guess, sort of humanize him in a way, and you kind of follow the emotions of the leads in the remake, and they're two good leads, or good guys, I guess. Definitely paint him in a more sympathetic light. So you as an audience member, you tend to follow the way they feel. So they definitely paint him a lot more sympathetic in the remake.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, humanize him better than they do some of the leads. But I mean, regardless of how you slice it, both films clearly pull off what they're going for, which is
Mhm.
the scale of this mighty beast,
Yeah.
gorilla, ape. Again, I don't know what the proper term is here, and it translates. Like you know that this guy is a badass, and it goes even beyond that. Like once we get to the city, you know, the hubris of the humans to think they're like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, we take Kong, and there's the chains. This guy's not getting out. And again, Kong. It takes so much to bring down this mighty figure that
Mhm.
when he is brought down, regardless of what movie you watch, like it is sort of a tragic moment.
Right.
And I think that the remake plays a lot more on this humanizing that they've done,
Mhm.
on that emotion as you see sort of the fall of Kong versus the original, where it's just like, plus, we'll talk about that. I don't want to get into
Yeah, we'll talk about that when I
I
think
want to
we
get into
talk about our,
to
our
the line,
leads. Yeah.
but effective.
Oh yeah, pretty effective in both films. If I had to pick, I mean, 1933. I mean, just amazing what they were able to do with the limitations back then. So you just can't. It's so hard to compare it to like anything
Yeah.
that has come afterwards. So still impressive in the remake, especially with the way he's able to emote, and the animatronics really look well. Sometimes when the actors in the same scene with Kong, you could see those black lines around the person, so you
Yeah.
could see that they're not really in the same plane. So like some of those effects didn't age well, but the animatronic stuff looks really well. But overall, that stop motion is just, I don't know, something about it just really like captures my imagination.
It's just classic.
Yeah.
You know, it's like going back and watching like the Heat Miser. Like it still works, man. You know, and I think that because actually they're more limited, they
Hmm.
pay a little bit more attention to flow with their cinematography. There's a few too many scenes of just like, well, we got this giant arm. Let's try to make it grab somebody. And it's like this is going on for longer than I care to watch. So, and you're right. Like, again, even though they have like these advantages, these little things that you start noticing, like the black outlines and stuff, they tend to take you out more than like the original, where you're just like, well, how the hell did they do that? Like,
Right.
that question is better than they're doing that. So I do agree that from an action perspective, I would give it to the remake, but from just an overall, the original, I think just it nails it.
I'd even give the action to the original, just because you get more Kong versus dinosaurs than in the remake.
That's true.
So, like, personally, but yeah, still both look pretty good. The original is just, it's a classic. It's so hard to knock it for what they did.
Yeah, at
least not. I was going to say, at least the effects, maybe.
There's things that we can knock, and we might get around to it. There's a mighty beast behind me.
There you go.
I think my makeshift light guard is going to fail. but so that's Kong in sort of a nutshell. Like we mentioned, both of them pretty good effects, but the original, just the dinosaurs, man. The dinosaurs and just that visceral nature puts it over the top. But
also sorry, just a little off, or just one more thing. The original, the way he dies, like they both get shot on top of their respective buildings, but like I think the blood effect just doesn't look that great in the remake. It just looks too watery, or like too much Kool-Aid coming out of him or something. I don't know. It's just because that Kong's a lot bigger too than the other Kong, so it's like the bullets from the helicopters. I just feel like that much blood didn't look quite right. Something about it just didn't match. So just a little nitpicking there of the remake.
No, totally. Yeah, that scene that we'll talk about a bit. There are some effects that I'm like, I don't know. But let's see. As much as I want to kind of talk about our leads, I did want to kind of start with sort of the impetus of the trip. In the original film, we have Robert Armstrong as Carl Denham.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months it'll be up in lights on Broadway. Come, the eighth wonder of the world.
And in the remake, we have Charles Grodin as Fred S. Wilson.
What they find will shock the world.
We may be sailing into the history books.
And the reason I wanted to bring up Denham and Wilson first is that it's their harebrained scheme that gets us into this mess in the first place. Carl Denham is a fast-talking Hollywood type who wants to make his next big picture. That's right. He's known for shooting in exotic locations, and from what I understand, he just, he's heard tale of this like sort of legend from this particular location, and he's trying to see if he can get a shot of it. Versus the 1976 film where we have Grodin's Fred S. Wilson, who basically he's an executive for Petrox Oil Company. And based on infrared imagery, which reveals a previously undisclosed Indian Ocean island hidden by a permanent cloud bank, way too complicated. Wilson believes the island is a huge oil deposit. So you've got this original film that's leaning into its movie magic. It's like, hey, we're gonna make this big picture, and it's almost like this meta like thing of like, all right, let's watch these guys go get this crazy footage. And I actually enjoyed that. The movie was almost like referential in that way, and I just think that like the 76 setup, like the fact that they're going for oil, it just feels like kind of unnecessary and muddy, right? Like why switch it up so much, in my opinion? Because like ultimately they're not aware of Kong. There's not really good oil there. So it's just like, I was a little confused by like, if you're going to make it this search for oil, that seems secondary. So it's like, you might as well lean into like the ridiculous nature of the original film. I'm just saying like, I got to make a movie. I got to get it starlit. Like I thought it like in terms of absurd plots, like it wasn't like the remake took us so far out of like absurdity that like we needed this more plausible expedition. And we'll talk about it, but like the way we meet our lead, it's like, I don't know. I think they weirdly handled it better than the original.
I don't know. I might disagree with you. I kind of like the what they did in the remake. I thought this whole I'm a Hollywood star or I'm a Hollywood director and I'm gonna make this movie and I'm not gonna tell anybody where we're going or why we're going there. I was just like, what the fuck, man? And I'm gonna find a random woman who I don't know and I'm gonna convince her to come with me even though she doesn't know anything about this trip. I'm just like, Jesus, can you rate much? I mean, it's like, tell her something. You gotta give us something, man.
Right.
So I thought the whole like let's go there for oil and then we'll accidentally come across this thing. I liked the overly complicated. There's a fog that hasn't moved in 100 years kind of thing. I was like, ooh, tell me more about this fog. I was intrigued. I don't know. I guess because like it was a nice departure. Like I just thought like if they did the director going to the island again to film this mysterious creature and just get a random actress. I just thought that was like, I don't know if we need to do that again. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was something new and just a different way to hook me. So I liked the whole this overly complicated, somewhat convoluted reason for getting to the island.
Yeah,
and I didn't mind it. And yeah,
now I would be more okay with the convoluted rationale if we had a more natural introduction to our starlet.
Okay.
That's really what I'm harping on is that like you did all this building and like it is cool like Jeff Bridges' character and like what they do with him. It is interesting, but then they find this like, in my opinion, convoluted weird way to bring the actress aboard the ship that it's like why, right?
Right.
Versus like the original, it's still almost as absurd. No, it's close. It's pretty absurd the way we meet the actress in the original as well. But like that to me feels like a more plausible scenario than what we got in the remake. So I do agree with you that I like the Petrox oil like setup. I like the way that it brings Jeff Bridges into the movie. I hate the way it brings Lang into the movie. So I just said, you know what? It's got too complicated for me. I'm just gonna stick with the original. It's goofy as all hell, but like there's something to me that's charming about the fact that like it's my next big picture, and like they like end up going to this like we're on the journey with them in a way that the remake does a good job of explaining what they're doing. The original, I don't know, it's just maybe that old Hollywood movie magic just it captured me.
No, I agree. I definitely had a problem, but I'll save that for when we discuss the leads. I mean, there's a simple solution. You should just make her part of the crew. And then that's the most obvious thing instead of just like shoehorning her in. Hey, here's a pretty wet lady. Okay. But yeah, going back to our other characters here, Denham and Wilson. Yeah, I don't know. Just, I guess like Denham, he's just, that's that overly zealous, like this, I gotta get this picture made. And it's just like, doesn't really have like an arc or anything. It's just, I gotta get the picture made and oops. I guess it was, who would have saw that coming? It wasn't the airplanes, it was Beauty. It was you. It's all your fucking fault.
No, he's such a like, by the end of it, he's just such a con man that it's like, oh my God, what a scumbag, dude. Like he slotted into that role so easily. He felt very like kind of P.T. Barnum by the end. It's like, here's my giant gorilla. Versus Wilson, who's just a more natural, old school corporate villain. I'm here for oil. Fuck the native population. We'll get him to put a thumbprint on a treaty. I'm like, ugh, bro. That's pretty rough. But no, Wilson is so consistent throughout the film.
Right.
In a way where Denham is like, is that a new hat? I'm just going to pick it up and wear it. Like, there's a scene where Denham is like, I don't like cameramen anymore because dumb bastard got out of the way when a rhino charged him. I would have shot the rhino.
Yeah.
It's like, so now you're the cameraman and the director and you're like taking this crew across the sea because you're good at sea shit now. And like now you have the means to start your own like basically circuit. Like it's that's convoluted and insane that he could just be so many different things.
Yeah, and then like just going to his character even more, like he doesn't like casting women in pictures. He thinks like how to ruin everything. He wouldn't cast a woman in this picture, but the critics always say, what would have been better, a little romance. So that's the only reason he's putting a woman into his picture. And I don't know, it's I guess it's not so obvious that he's the villain in that original film, but like by the end you're just like, well, he didn't even get his comeuppance at all. At least like, at least Wilson's it's like
huh, that is something.
Yeah, well, that shit sucks. This ain't my fault though. It was Beauty. It wasn't me.
Yeah. But,
not the white guy. It's okay.
The white guys are okay in this film. But no, you make a good point that like there isn't really a comeuppance. And I thought that the line you mentioned about like, could you at least tell her where you're going? Like,
yeah, come on.
You can't just like abduct women. Well, I guess you can in 1933. You're just abducting women off the street and being like, you're going to be in a movie and don't worry about where we're going. And when she's like, hey, look, I don't know you. He's like, trust me, I'm square. I'm on the up and up. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah. There won't be any funny business. It's like, okay, you're taking his word at face value? Come on, lady.
It's like I'm more likely to think there's funny business after the guy says there's no funny business.
Exactly.
But I like that cartoonish 30s villainry, but he's all over the place in a way where like Wilson is like, he's smart, he's calculated, and I do like when he gets frustrated, he's like, shit, Exxon.
Yeah.
How'd you find out about us? I just like that guy is more prepared. He does his homework and is such an obvious villain for us to rally against that it works out very well.
Yeah, and also he's also incredibly just he looks like an idiot a lot of times. Like he'll say like, "Oh, there's obviously no natives here." Then immediately like drums on the island, or "Don't worry, Kong's still chained by his feet. He won't get out of that." Oh shit, man! It's like everything this fucking guy says is completely wrong. He's never in control of the situation. He's clearly just out of his element. And I don't know, it's like you said, they painted him as the villain. He's an easy guy to not like just because he's somewhat condescending and just like constantly wrong.
Absolutely. But like the great thing about that is you get this sort of comedic effect out of him.
Yeah.
And like when it's time for him to be a villain, he turns that up to 10.
Right.
When it's time for him to be kind of funny. You get a lot of utility out of this guy. So I think as much as I said I kind of like the sort of movie magic, if we're comparing these characters one-to-one, Charles Grodin's Fred Wilson is just he's more nuanced, he's funnier, he's more like obviously villainous. So he's checking all the boxes he's supposed to versus Robert Armstrong's Carl Denham, who he checks boxes, but it happens in a haphazard, random way.
Yeah.
I just prefer how neat they are in the remake.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. He's just overall just a more interesting character, and I do like he's not necessarily like mustache twirling. Like you're not sure about this guy in the beginning. He's not obviously the villain, and then as the movie progresses, then he really just takes on that role as our lead villain. So I like that. It's like you said before, it does feel a little more natural, his progression, as opposed to like, I don't exactly know what's going on with you, Denham, but you're kind of an asshole anyway.
Yeah, I do want to highlight. I love the line where like he's showing the slideshow, and he's like, "Yeah, we got a guy in Washington. He might be on Pennsylvania Avenue." It's like, oh, he's got ties to the president. That's kind of cool. I like that character a lot. I thought that he was I thought he was a very strong character, and in a movie where there's so many people in both these films that kind of just get like lost in the shuffle. Yeah. Both actors stand out because of their role, but like Grodin just takes it to another level with his humor. And I thought it was great. Yeah,
that humor really does help put his character over the top. It's pretty good.
Absolutely. So I guess from a question standpoint, I almost want to say like we should probably bring up the actors before we bring up our male lead.
Okay.
I don't know if you agree. Okay. So going that direction, I think this is going to be interesting. Going that direction, we've got Fay Wray, who plays Ann Darrow.
The public wants a girl, and this time I'm going to give them what they want. I don't know where you're going to get it. Ma, this is no place for a girl.
I wish you wouldn't keep harping on that.
In the original film, and Jessica Lange, who plays Dwan, in our 1976 film.
I can't stand it! Honest, I can't. When I was 10 years old, they took me up in the Empire State Building and I got sick in the elevator.
Okay, where to start? Fay Ray. So, like we mentioned, there are these sort of like unnatural introductions to our lead characters. We're kind of just thrown into Carl Denham's like little movie plot, and like you mentioned, he's like, I don't like dames at all, no women, but I need a woman for my picture, and we leave in like 6 hours. And I'm gonna go scour the city, New York City, find a woman in the 30s that can pick up and go and won't ask any questions, won't no one's gonna miss her. and they find a plausible solution in this Ann Darrow character. She's kind of a bit of a, she's almost giving me like a Latin vibe. She's kind of like a street kid almost. Like she's a grown woman, but like she'll like steal to like get by. She's like doesn't really have a lot going on for herself. You know, so like we see in these little interactions that she's capable in taking care of herself. Not that that really matters. I really think they just kind of have her there to be like, hey, look, she steals stuff, so like no one's gonna care that we just abducted her. And it's, I guess, plausible.
I totally forgot about the scene where she's kind of stealing. Like I wasn't even sure if she was really stealing or if she was gonna buy it and she just didn't have the opportunity to take her money out. Because like she just picked up that fruit and the guy's like, you're gonna steal it. It's like, whoa. I can't even just feel it to make sure it's not like, you know, decaying or anything. So I guess that could make her survivor because she's trying, but like her character is pretty plain throughout the whole movie. It's kind of a thing that happens in the original. There's not a lot of depth to these characters in that film, and they don't really have a lot of arcs when it comes to stories. And she's pretty much just this naive girl who's just there to be the girl for Kong, that annoys the men because she is female. And I guess Kong loves her. I don't really remember like much about her because she's just kind of captured, and that's kind of all she plays is just the victim for most of the film.
Yeah, they do the classic sort of like starlit, you know, early film thing where like you got all the Vaseline on the camera and like once he kind of like helps her out, like she kind of turns around, you get that zoom in, the lighting on her face, and it's like, oh, she's dreaming, you know. And there's a lot of racial under and overtones in the film. So like she's this like beautiful blonde, and when she gets to this native island, like they've never seen this blonde goddess before. Neither has the mighty Kong, and like she's a face, right? Like she's a face. They give her kind of a, by the standards, kind of decent backstory with this brief like fruit interaction, but that doesn't matter at all. She's just gonna get chained up, and Kong's gonna grab. Like that is your purpose in this film.
And she kind of falls in love. I don't know how, I guess.
Yeah, figure that one out.
We'll get to that, I guess, when we get into our other male lead. But, you know, I guess she did her role, right? It's not really much of a role. It's just kind of Kong's love interest and just the girl he keeps going after. And, you know, she's not terrible to him. Like, she's not always screaming. She's not
always.
He's not painted to be as sympathetic as in the remake, so there's not really those moments where she's alone with him and just trying to understand him. She's always just trying to get out. So, you know, she's okay. I don't really have much to say about her.
No. I mean, look, she you know, because this is all you had to do at the time.
Yeah.
Good face, good scream. Wore the like I'm chained up outfit very well. You know, like the classic, almost like slave layer type deal. You know, like she a good looking woman that is able to kind of hold her own in when screen time with this Kong that they've constructed, right? Like that's about it. 1976. Okay, we've got Jessica Lange, and really her first like real acting job, playing Dwan, which is it's Dawn, but she switched the W and the A to be more interesting, kind of. I struggle with this character a lot, right? Like when we're first introduced to her, the male lead has kind of like been discovered as a stowaway, and he was like, "Hey, look off in the distance. What's that?" And they're like, "Come on, buddy, I'm not falling for that one." And lo and behold, there's a lifeboat or life raft with a woman basically dressing like a ball gown, who's you know, blonde, hot, stranded.
The implication, Reggie. The implication.
What's that?
She can't, I don't know if you watch It's Always Sunny. She can't say no because the implication.
The implication of the high seas is in full effect here. And like, I don't know. It's like she's passed out at this point. They're trying to figure it out. They have this weird backstory where like she was on a yacht that like exploded.
Yeah, I don't exactly know. Like, I didn't really pay attention to exactly what happened. I'm just gonna assume like it just got overturned or something, or just like the seas took care of it. And I don't know, it's weird. It's really bizarre. It
is really bizarre. Like basically when she was on that boat, some Hollywood type was whisking her way to Hong Kong to be in pictures. The implication was in full effect on that boat. And then, you know, it gets really interesting once she starts talking. Once they give her the smelling salts and she starts going off, that's where we get the Dwan line. She's like, "Oh, could you imagine I'm the first person to be have their life spared by not watching the movie Deep Throat." Okay.
Yeah, so just on that note, so I was just doing a little bit of research. She brings it up a couple times now, like Deep Throat saved her life because, you know, for those who don't know, Deep Throat is that pornographic film that, which is also the name of the informants, who, you know, the Watergate scandal. Yeah. She's watching. She didn't want to watch Deep Throat, and she kept saying that her friend Harry, you know, brought her and wanted everybody to watch it. So Harry was also one of the stars of Deep Throat. So it's most likely that the movie she was going to star in was also going to be a porno.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which is a great little like kind of Easter egg aside, but really, the whole thing is just it's muddy. Like once she starts talking, things get very confusing because she just has this like kind of aloof, rambling train of thought type deal. And I'm sure that's like in the script, but Lang doesn't come across great in these interactions. I'm just like, it's actually kind of hard to watch and listen to. It's like as much as like a 1930s film doesn't do women a lot of justice. Weirdly, like Ann Darrow's like a more kind of stoic, measured character versus this Dwan who just keeps da, and then I was in Deep Throat, and it's just like it keeps going and going. And they spend quite a bit of time on the ship, more or less her playing like dress up. It's like, oh, some sea guy gave her a shirt. Well, I cut it off and I made it a crop top. And boys, what do you think? A lot of eye candy. A lot of eye candy. Not a lot. Just I don't know. I struggle with. I'm assuming the script, which maybe that's the point. Like the point is she's supposed to be kind of like this ditzy airhead, but it feels a little rough because like we spend so much time with her. Like you mentioned, she's wet. We're gonna throw her in the water here. We're gonna take off clothes here. We're gonna, you know. I saw you had a note about the King Kong himself being kind of like horny for Dwan.
Yep.
And it's like everybody is. The whole movie, everybody just check out this broad with this. And I don't know. I felt like it was. I guess it was interesting that they built out that character. I wish they built a better character. It just felt a little like misogynistic, I guess. Yeah,
that's fair enough. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the problem with Dawn is she's pretty naive and flaky, and she's not really a great character. And yeah, your problem with like her just kind of randomly showing up and just like, oh, now she's on this crew. Like, why? If you're getting rid of like the director, why does she have to be an actress?
right.
I say like easy solution, just make her a crew member already. She doesn't have to wear those skimpy outfits, and then maybe the natives just dress her up in like that ceremonial garb, and then that's how you get to see a little bit of the sexy skin or whatever. But like it's just keeping her as an actress, having her randomly show up, her not even like blinking an eye that everybody that on that yacht is dead now and you're the only survivor. Like that's some PTSD that you got to deal with, and she doesn't really express that or show that at all. She's completely fine. She's ready to fall in love. Right. So it's like there's a lot going on that's just not. She's not taking anything in or just emoting anything that would just reflect this traumatic experience that just happened to her. And yeah, she is just ultimately just the girl at the end of the day. And her biggest, I guess, contribution really to the film is just like I said before, just making her sympathetic towards Kong. Like she kind of likes Kong. And we said like Kong's a little bit horny in this film, and she's not necessarily like pushing him away. She's kind of like digging it. She's kind of moaning when he's like poking her with her finger. It's like, she's gonna fuck the monkey. She's gonna fuck the monkey in this film. She liked it.
It is heavily implied that could happen, and like, because there are scenes where like there was a line where someone was like, "Oh, the monkey, I guess trigger warning, was trying to rape you, right?" Mm-hmm. And she was like, "No, it's not like that." I'm like, "Well, what is it? what is happening in this film?" And I did some research on the movie as well. Like, some of the actors that they were considering was like Meryl Streep, but they were like, apparently Meryl Streep wasn't hot enough for the director.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then, after Meryl Streep didn't work out, another consideration was Barbara Streisand, who actually had the role and basically just turned it down. So that would have been interesting. And that's the thing I struggle with, right? Like, Judith Lane, who ultimately became like a decent actress, but like for her first swing out, it's like maybe she is that good of an actress. I'm like, is it the character or is it her, right? Like, because this Dwan is just a rough character.
She's not a great character. She's definitely like probably the weakest character in the remake, I'd say, just because she's just so naive and just really doesn't. I don't know. she just. I have a trouble just connecting with her character, or just even understanding like her motivation. Sometimes it's like, well, do you really like this guy, or are you just kind of just playing all the men just to get what you want? It's really hard to get a solid read on exactly what she wants, and like she just sometimes like at the most inappropriate times, like she just like at the end of the movie, like, hey, let's go to the bar. What the? There's a giant
I know.
gorilla. I know. Why do you want to go to the bar?
I know. It's just such a flimsy character, and like, look, she hits the role in terms of like for the poster, the blonde in the gorilla grip, like that, perfect for that. Great looking person, but like the character, and I'm gonna assume that this is more of a script problem, than an actress problem. Although, like, I'd be very interested to see how like a Meryl Streep would have pulled this off, because there's no way Meryl Streep would have allowed this to happen to her career. Like, there's a way to play this character as like a complete dummy, but also like, spare yourself. But look, it's an interesting casting choice. I would have to say that honestly, based off of 1-to-1, I'm gonna go with the original actress Fay Ray's character is just better somehow. And Dawn, though I find her kind of interesting and just like the name is kind of funny and silly, her aloofness is kind of funny and silly. It's just like you mentioned, inappropriate sometimes in the film, and it takes you out of certain scenes. Like, why are they in a bar? That's crazy.
I mean, I love a good drink now and then, Reggie, but if I'm being chased by King Kong, I know it's time to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. So because she like fails to like elevate some of the scenes to like the actual like context and nuances needed to be in, it's just a very weak character. And yeah, the original just does it better somehow. So
yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think because like her character doesn't really do anything. I mean, she's got the pretty blonde look down, and then she's, like I said, she's able to, make Kong not necessarily the bad guy, like you said. Like, he raped you. She's like, no. It was mutual. I definitely wanted to bang him. So it's like, she's able to do that, but like, I just feel like she could have done so much more. It definitely didn't feel like the leap like the other characters in the remake took. It definitely just felt like a tiny little step, and she serviceable, absolutely. But you didn't really do much. So yeah, I'll go with the original portrayal by Fay Ray.
And let's properly this is completely on the director. This is a director who took like this huge franchise, was given the opportunity to have like seasoned actresses in the movie, and then pick like kind of like the hot model newcomer. And Lang, like I said, her career since then has been actually pretty impressive. Her first foray into the acting world, I feel like this director failed her more than the actress herself. So just wanted to put that out there. Don't cast movies based off of who you think is hot. Like, cast movies based off who you think can play the character.
It's also the script too, probably.
It
it's
is.
just, I don't know why you keep her an actress. Just make her a member of the crew. Easy solution there. Then you give her a little more agency. You see that she's an intelligent woman, not just naive Dwan who changed her name for some stupid reason. Yeah, it's just a poorly written character overall.
Yeah. And not much you can do about that.
Not much. You can just look at her because she is pretty.
Now, I think in the remake, our male lead is written a little bit better. But
yes,
let's break down our male leads from both films. In 1933, we have Bruce Cabot as John Jack Driscoll. And in the remake, we've got Jeff Bridges, the dude himself, who plays Jack Prescott.
The ape had the right idea.
What's that?
In the original film, John Jack Driscoll is I'll just call him Jack for short going forward.
Yeah.
He's the first mate. He's the first mate of Captain Englehorn's ship. Classic, we've talked about these before. 30s actor, square jaw, stand over here. And even the actor says this, it's like, that was his first real film. And he was like, they just told me to stand here and they told me to say these things. And that's what I did. And look, he's fine, right? Like, he stands there, does what he's supposed to. Believable romantic interest. Really, his only arc is, I fell in love with this girl. I gotta protect this girl. I'm engaged to this girl by the end of the movie. That's kind of his whole arc. So we won't spend too much time with him. Jeff Bridges. Now, this is a well-written character. Jack Prescott is a very cool character, right? Like, we've got this expedition for oil that we talked about, and we see Jeff Bridges kind of like sliding a sailor a couple of dollars so he can sneak past and get on the ship. Yeah. And it turns out he's a primate paleontologist, which is very, very useful. But like, he's just dripping with energy and like attitude. Like, he's got a lot of charisma. He's got a lot of great quips and stuff like that. And like I said, I love that scene where we're first kind of introduced to him speaking when the main guy's like, and this is where we're gonna get the oil. He's like, I think that's animal breath. Animal breath. It's like, who is this guy? Wait, he's wearing one of your shirts. Where did this guy come from? And I don't know. He's just such a cool character.
No, he's definitely charismatic, Jeff Bridges, in this role. Like his introduction's so cool. Like you said, like he comes across as like drunk. I thought he was just drunk and dropped money. It took me a second to realize, oh, he did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He bribed the guy so he could not even just like get on the board. He had to like climb a rope to like sneak on the boat. It was really cool. The way he got onto the boat, and then Jeff Bridges just got this awesome beard and this long hair. He just looks so fucking cool. It's classic Jeff Bridges, and he's a stowaway on the boat, and he doesn't care. He's like, I'm gonna correct you guys because you guys are wrong. If this is not what's on the island, this is probably what's on the island. Ancient legend says this and this and this, and I bet you missed that, right? And they think he's like a Russian spy, and they have to do a background check on him, and then he's a very interesting character. He's very charismatic, and he's our good guy, and it's easy for him to be the good guy.
Totally easy for him to be the good guy, considering that like the rest of the crew is pretty, they're either like, seafaring types, like kind of like ship guys, or they're evil oil people, right? So you got Bridges here. He's a long hair. They're calling him like a hippie. Yeah. He's got convictions, right? Like he's not here for fame or riches. Mm-hmm. He's here to like study this phenomenon, and like he doesn't have these like these sort of motivations that are selfish. He's a pretty selfless character, and it's very easy for us to see how like Dwan could fall for this guy who he's different from the rest of the crew. Right. He's got his own thing going on, and what I love about that character, like you mentioned, they're pretending to be drunk, they're dropping the money for the bribe. When he is captured, he's like, fuck this, I'm out. Like, where you going? You're on a boat, man.
The implication, Jeff Bridges, you're gonna have to do something to stay on that boat.
Yeah. And even like just all the scenes where like he leads as a guy who's a stowaway, he's a leader. Like he breaks out the smelling salts and wakes up Dawn. She starts talking too much. He's like, maybe you need some sleep. He discovers that she's been captured. He leads the expedition. Like Jeff Bridges went from being this like really a guy who could have spent the entire trip in the brig,
right?
Like, and who talked himself into a job. He's like, you're the cameraman now. I was like, yeah, sure, all right. Jack Prescott is just such a strong, fun character that he's doing a lot of heavy lifting for this Dwan relationship. Because if you take Jeff Bridges out of the mix, I don't give a shit what happens to those two characters.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. He's a very strong character. He definitely becomes a leader when they run into the natives. They're like, "Well, Jack, can you communicate this?" Right. So right there, he's just taking the lead. He's like, "I don't really understand it, but I understand their tone." So he definitely takes a leadership role pretty early in the film, even though he's the stowaway. And he's the good guy too, because he's constantly telling like all the people, like, shoot in the air, don't hurt anybody, don't hurt any of the animals. At the end of the movie, he's like demanding, like, I'll tell you where Kong's going, but you cannot hurt him. So he's he has a lot of morals, and as opposed to the other characters, you don't exactly know where their moral stands. It's mostly money driven, these other people, and like you said, he's not necessarily that. So clearly our good guy, very charismatic. Makes you give a shit about that Dawn Jack relationship, because Dawn's pretty and all, but she's not really. Other than that, that's all she kind of is. Like, Jack's, he's charming, he's good looking, he's charismatic, he's all these other things. So you can see like why she'd be attracted to him, and she's just pretty.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, that sort of money motivation. Towards the end of the film, he's like, I don't want your money. Here's a check. Yeah. I donated to charity, or like, some like conservation thing. It was like, there he goes again. You can't.
But not right away though, because he is given a moment where he's like, you can walk away from it now. And then there is a point in the movie, he's flawed. He wants the money, so he doesn't go against what Wilson wanted. He's like, all right, I'll just fucking be your puppet, I guess. But then at the end of the day, his morals just take the higher ground, and he's like, yeah, I don't want your money. I'm out. I donated everything. Come with me, Dwan. And ultimately, unlike I guess we'll get to it when we talk about the endings, but it doesn't exactly have a happy ending for Jack and Dwan in this remake.
No, I wouldn't say so. And it just gives you so much to work with. Jeff Bridges' portrayal, like honestly, just I don't see the movie working without him. Like really on a lot of levels. So he's a very, very he's beyond competent. He's the strongest character in the movie besides King Kong himself.
Right.
And it works really well. Bruce Cabot, like I said, nothing wrong with him. You just, there's not much for him to work with. And like he is pretty much indecipherable from anyone else in the crew, really. Like it's just a bunch of, square jaws on a boat. And some racial stereotypes too. But like Jeff Bridges, like being dude-esque, having the long hair, having the kind of hippie morality and stuff like that. Such a good distinction. It makes it easy for him to be a foil to these villains and stuff like that. I got nothing but positive things to say. Jeff Bridges is the stronger Jack by a landslide. And like I said, the movie doesn't work without him. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I did not know Jeff Bridges was in the remake, and when I saw his name in the credits, I was excited and hopeful, and he definitely delivered. He's like you said, he's one of the, if not the strongest actor in the movie, other than Kong. So he definitely is like the glue that holds a lot of it together. Like a lot of heavy lifting, great portrayal. If you're a Jeff Bridges fan, definitely won't be disappointed by his performance here.
Yeah, and kind of moving forward from here. Not that I think this is very important, but just kind of honorable mention. There are obviously more actors in the film, but like we kind of hit the crux of who really matters. Just for reference, I wanted to mention Frank Riker, who plays Captain Englehorn in the original film, and John Randolph, who plays Captain Ross in the remake. Really, the only reason I'm bringing them up is because it's their boat.
Fair enough.
We don't see them much, but I wanted to include them because I think the fact that they're the captain of the ship is pivotal to the plot. But beyond that, I really don't have much to say about those two characters. Just a note.
Yeah, they're not that important. At the end of the day, I feel like I don't even really remember any of the roles, especially after Kong is introduced to both films. So
it's probably because they murder like 12 people.
Yeah, I don't know. Is the captain murdered? I couldn't even tell you. Yeah, the captain's, they're there. I remember him a little bit more in the remake. I thought it was Ernest Borgnine at first. I was like, oh man, is he in this movie too? It's not. But he's a captain. Doesn't really bring anything to the story necessarily.
Right. Just the only contribution really is they have the boat, but that's acting, right? I did want to bring up that sort of our native population, both films. Not
it's all you on this.
not the greatest portrayal in either film in terms of sensitivity towards people of color. But I did want to draw a distinction that in the original, we have this dynamic where because they know of the native population, there's someone on the boat that can talk to the people. And there's like negotiations that happen. And I appreciate in the original that if they're going to have them do this sort of like kind of horse trading for Dwan, that at least they understood them and were able to have a conversation with them. It was fine that Jeff Bridges was able to kind of interpret what they were doing, but I thought it was much weaker for the remake to have them not understand them, even if it's more kind of like plausible. I just thought that like it further undermined this group of people that are being portrayed, these fictional natives that are drawn from different stereotypes. I prefer that. Hey, at least you can talk to them. you may not respect them, but at least you can talk to them. And I thought the original handled that well. Versus the remake, you know, like you literally have like the scene where it's like there's 6 women for this one white chick. Huh? Like take up a fair trade. That would be easier to stomach with whether or not the language is real, whether or not we can understand it, at least someone in the crew understand them would have been nice. And I wanted to make that note, and I also wanted to say that, like, ultimately, though, we pretty much get the same sort of worship of this Kong figure. I think that the scale of the sort of native island and like their civilization felt better in the remake.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, the original has the dinosaurs, so like and you know, like the name for this place is Skull Island. I didn't catch it. They said that in the remake. I didn't hear that.
No, they didn't specifically say Skull Island. He did mention something of an island shaped like a skull, but he never referred to it as Skull Island.
Boo. Skull Island, it's better. So, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, like kind of it's unfortunate that these portrayals exist, but I think the original handled it better, and I think that, like, again, going back to that lore thing, like this native population, one being actually known to exist, understood, having dinosaurs in their freaking island. It's just a better overall group in this original movie because of what we're able to get out of them versus the remake, which is like they can't talk. So now what are we doing?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's always tricky when you see these sort of people in these old films. There's like, oh, it's not going to be racially sensitive. I'm just going to hold my breath and just see what they do. There's nothing really necessarily terrible, but yeah, you brought up a good point. The whole not understanding them just kind of makes them these like almost unknown savages in a way. It's like, I guess like the best thing you could have done was just like let us know them exactly a little bit more so we can understand them. But again, the remake's already a long film, and it's like we want to put Kong in this movie, so you want to spend like another 15 minutes trying to understand the natives. It's a tricky situation. So yeah, it could have definitely been done better. But you do bring up a good point about at least we can talk to them, so at least we're equals there. Because in the remake, they're just the white people are just seen superior in every way.
Even with like the 1930s sort of language, where it's like there was some line that was like, no white man has ever stepped foot or something like that. You know, like even with lines like that, it still feels like they have a better connection with the native population. Again, like it's not a great achievement, right? Like the one of the main the guy who plays kind of like the chieftain, I think, is Steve Clemente in the original, who's just like a Mexican guy, right?
Okay.
But I don't know. I like that they could talk to them, and I thought that scene worked better versus like random scare them with our guns. Like that just felt weak. So nothing major to really report on from me, but I wanted to bring that distinction up.
There's also another distinction. Like once they kind of scare them away with their guns in the remake, that's it. We don't really see or hear from the natives at all, I believe, right?
No, besides them, not really. Besides them, like stealing Dwan, kidnapping Dwan.
Well, after they kidnap Dwan, then they come show up with the guns, and then the 4th of July. That's their code. Yeah. So then after that, the natives are just out of the film. They didn't really put too much into the natives in the remake, but the natives in the original, they actually fight Kong when he breaks through the gate. So they get a little more screen time. You know, just shows that they have a little more agency too, because they are able to fight and defend themselves. They don't win against Kong because they're just throwing spears at him. But you know, it's just funny because like I keep going back to that line. Beauty killed the beast, no, it was you, because these people lived kind of peacefully with this huge monster, and not only did you kill the monster, but you also opened the gates, so he destroyed their homes, and now they don't have houses. A lot of them are dead. They just really got fucked in that original film.
And you know, like you left these people without, like you mentioned, this Kong defender status. Right. Like you took the apex kind of predator out of their lives. Like these dinosaurs are going to run free. It's going to be a problem.
It's gonna be a huge problem. And there's no more gate too, because you ruined everything. Beauty? No, it wasn't Beauty. God damn it!
It's like I got my gas bombs. It's like I understand that you have those. But going back to like the Clemens movie villainry, it's like, yeah, man, you screwed up a lot of people's existence and just kind of like, well, I mean, it must have been beauty. It's like, fuck you, fuck you, man. That's a great point, dude. But yeah, I don't know. Like you mentioned, the natives feel a lot like an afterthought in this remake in a way that's kind of confusing, given that like how impressive the set is for them. Like, it's like you really made that like gate look good in this movie, and you don't really care about the people behind the gate. It's like, you're here so we can get the Kong. You're here so we can dress, laying up in this like, the white gown get up, and yeah. Somehow 1933, once again, when it came to women and natives, somehow handled it a little bit better. Weird. All right.
We had already talked about it before, but maybe we can just go into it, just how cool it is when Kong fights all the other dinosaurs in the original film. Like I said, he's got that finishing move where he puts his hand in their mouth and just separates it. And he does this great thing too in the original film. Like after he's killed them, he kind of shakes their body around, and then to like see if they're dead, and then he drops it. Like I was watching with Sam, and then like every time he did that, he shook the body. She would always go, "You dead? Okay, cool." So I read that. Yeah, you dead? All right, we cool.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I thought.
It's a nice little touch,
It's
pretty realistic. Like, okay, I'm making sure. All right, you're not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
Because like it felt like they made all this attention to like Kong in this remake, and then you see the snake and it's like,
Yeah.
The snake's like, it doesn't look great. In the original, you just have such a variety: the pterodactyl, the brontosaurus, the T-Rex, and like you said, that you dead? Like, yeah, you dead, man. I don't know, like Kong just comes across really really well in those scenes. And I do, as cheesy as it is, I love like when they start to escape Jack and Darrow in the original. Like the way they shoot it with the actors running towards the camera, and like she just get whipped in the face by all these like plants. I'm like, can we help her? I thought I really like that kind of like Indiana Jones style, like running towards the camera action. And yeah, once again, like as much of an advantage as the remake has in terms of production and what they can do, the original really captured the action like in a way that was far more impressive to me. Like even when we're in the jungle, like that scene where Kong's like shaking the log and guys just like one by one falling off. I'm like, nah.
I mean, yeah, it's I love the way they shot it though, because Kong's on a rear projection screen, and then like the actors are just on this log that I guess must be on some type of rig to lift it. So it looks like it's not really synced up that well though. So like he like lifts, he's still lifting while the log is stopped. It is somewhat comical, but you can appreciate what they were trying to do.
I appreciate what they were trying to do. I just think that like I like the I like the way that the falls happen and stuff like that. I would have thrown some Wilhelm screams in there.
Does this predate those?
I think it might actually.
Now I got to know when the Wilhelm scream came out.
That's a great point. Actually, the Wilhelm scream is pretty old. Actually, I think it was around in it was used in an old film. Wilhelm.
Beginning in 1951.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It does predate the Wilhelm.
Yeah, because Wilhelm is a character in this older film, and they're like, Wilhelm, and he's like, what? And he gets taken out. You get that classic. No, I did like the way that like the log scene sort of ended up. Basically, like the way they were falling and stuff, I thought was interesting. The rear projection was good, but like the action is it's just like, there's a big difference between like I'm shaking some guys off a log or I'm fighting a fucking T-Rex, dude. Yeah. There's a difference.
Okay. That's a good point. Yes. Shaking a log is not near as exciting as fighting a T-Rex. And then check it. You dead? All right.
And then like the scene where like Jeff Bridges, he just got a lucky fall. Like he's hanging off the side of this thing. And Kong is like, huh? Are you in there?
It looks pretty bad because there's this huge hole, and for some reason King Kong's not putting his hands and fingers in the hole. He's just like, I guess he's not here, even though I could clearly just put my whole hand, my fist in there, and just crush him.
Yeah.
But can't find it.
And it's weird because like Jeff Bridges, who honestly should be pretending like he's not there anymore, is like kicking at him. And I'm like, dude, stop. You're doing nothing. I don't know. I did appreciate sort of the jungle, Skull Island, just again that universe that's built out in the original. In the remake, because we get this more interpersonal Kong, we do get to see more like little guys kicking at him. Dwan takes a couple of pretty hard shots at his nose, and I don't know, like we replace some of this action with things like the great ape trying to blow dry the actress. I thought that was weird.
That's hot monkey breath. And then she's all like, breathe your monkey breath on me. I love it. I'm so into this.
I just like, what is his experience with human women that like he's like, oh, I'm kind of like a player monkey? Like he's kind of like, he's got moves, right? It's like, all right. Like the original King Kong, he's got the jawbreaker move. Like this guy's like, you okay, baby girl? Just so fucking weird.
They definitely took away a lot of the action scenes in the remake, probably just to get a little more one-on-one time with Dwan and King Kong again, just to maybe paint him in a more sympathetic light.
Yeah.
Because if he's constantly killing things, you just might think, well, he's just a violent animal. It doesn't really matter if he dies because he's just so violent. Maybe the world's better off without him. But no, he's a nice guy. You know, he's just a nice guy, just taking his girl out, making sure she's dry. Maybe taking her top off at inappropriate times when she's not asking for it. But she didn't get mad about it, so it's okay, kind of. So it's okay that they did that.
You make a good point about sort of action, right? Like this is the one time, from my experience with King Kong, where we are so focused on like his sort of humanization versus like pretty much every other time you got King Kong. It's like, what can we make him crush? What can we make him like destroy? Like we mentioned, in a few days, Godzilla versus King Kong is coming out, and like I'm not watching to find out if King Kong has found love again. I'm watching to see who wins in a fucking fight, Godzilla or King Kong, and like that's the groundwork that was laid in that original movie. It's like, all right, like he'll take out several reptilian, lizard, dinosaur things. Now I'm like, maybe he can take King Godzilla. Yeah. Maybe if I was basing that off the remake, I'd be like, Godzilla's gonna whoop this guy's ass. It's not even gonna be close. Although,
I was gonna jump in. Although it is easier to take out the original King Kong because all it took was one smoke bomb and he's out like that.
Yeah.
For the remake, it was a little more creative. At least they had to do a pit, huge barrels of chloroform. It took a little more effort. So I'll applaud the remake there because at least, this is a giant ape. I got to take him out with just one smoke bomb. I'm the director. See, I'm gonna throw a random smoke bomb and nail it. You should have done it like that, boys. You're all naval men. Why can't you fight like I can? I don't know. That was a weak part in the original for me.
And then they kind of like Governor's Travels, like tie him up. It's a little weak. I do love that. I seen the remake with the pit like that. Yeah. The way he falls in is really, really well done. Again, they but they break it up with these like scenes of like, I don't need to see the gorilla in the bottom of the ship and the girl going into the hole. And like, I like more of this, like more of these big set piece action scenes, less of this like, can we talk to him? Can we understand him? Because ultimately we know we can't because of they get pretty violent with Kong towards the end of that film, in a way that they don't in the original. Like it's more or less kind of the same action, but like the result is very different for our friend Kong. But yeah, before even talking about the ending though, like I think you're right. Like the action, I was kind of off it earlier because of like the janky stop motion, but then like the pure scope of what he's doing is like, okay, yeah, I'm back, dude. Versus like the remake where it's like you got these opportunities, like the log and stuff, like it's fine, but like maybe like more than one guy falls off at once, so that we can move to like another action scene. The snake was not really a great choice for what Kong was going to fight.
No.
It seemed like the easy, safe choice. Like it would have been really cool to see him fight something a little bit different.
Yeah. Something more like an equal, like a T-Rex. Something that could stand like mono to him, not like this low snake that's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, all right, it wrapped around his leg and then that was it, right? Like, I just, I think they weren't trying to muddy the waters by having multiple giant beasts because, like, in the 70s, you know, people are going to ask more questions. They might go back to the island and try to figure out more about it. You know, versus here where it's like, okay, it was a snake, but like, big snake, plausible. We're not too worried about it. Just, I don't know. Felt like a missed opportunity there, though.
It does feel like a missed opportunity. I guess I could understand it too because it does make Kong more of the central focus as opposed to the island. Like you see dinosaurs on this island, you're like, what else is on this island? Like I want to know in the original Skull Island, as opposed to the remake where it's like, well, I know Kong's there and there's kind of a boring snake, so I don't give a shit about the island. I just care about Kong. So I could see why they did it, but I think it would have been more exciting, obviously, to just have those action set pieces against animals of like that are equal to Kong.
Yeah, and like you could still do that in this film, right? Because at this point, Jack's really the only person that's seeing this, right? And he's got enough of a moral high ground that like he's like, hey, Dawn, we can't tell anyone what we saw because they'll come back to the island, right? Like I think that would work a little bit better versus what we got. Because as much as like he's a paleontologist, he's interested in these types of things. It doesn't feel like the other characters are already out of that sequence, so it's like you can start to introduce some really interesting big set piece monsters. But I get it. Like this film chose to singularly focus on Kong, like you mentioned, and that's cool. But I don't know. I miss the dinosaurs.
I do want to just mention an action scene that doesn't involve Kong in the original. It's when the men like first like go beyond the door and then they immediately run into a dinosaur and they're like, wow, let's kill it. And then they just start blasting and they just kill this poor dinosaur that was just like, you know, just chilling. It's like, there's some fucking trigger happy men fucking back in the day. It was absurd. I couldn't believe it. Like you're just killing him. And then like he didn't die right away, Reggie. He kept fucking shooting that fucking thing in the head. I swear to God, there was at least 3 close-ups of just shooting him in the head because like, is he dead? No, he's not. Wait, he's dead. No, he's not. It was brutal, man.
It is brutal.
Brutal.
Yeah, like the original, though they may have less firepower, which we'll get into. In the original, they are far more willing to use whatever they have at their disposal at anything. Like we mentioned before, they don't really care about like ultimately the native population. They're really just there for their big shot at this Kong thing. The remake, they really don't care about these people they found, but they just kind of disappear, so we don't get these like extra moments with different creatures, unfortunately.
But if you think about it, the filmmaker wants to film something that's never been seen before. Don't you think a fucking dinosaur would be pretty good? Hey, we didn't find the giant monkey, but you know what we found? Dinosaurs! It's like, yeah, fucking dinosaurs! No. Oh, somebody said a fucking dinosaur? Get the... It's like, come on, really? We're just gonna... This species that hasn't existed for millions of years, you're just gonna blow it away? It's just...
Arguably, like, like a gorilla with like a gland problem could get pretty big. But like the dinosaurs, that's a big deal, man. You're making a great point. Like, I came for the gorilla, I stayed for the dinosaur.
Right? What? A giant monkey that everybody can see at the zoo. It's like, all right, or fucking dinosaurs. Dinosaurs fighting each other. Oh my god, this is it. Fuck the monkey. Dinos.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
It is absurd. It's totally absurd. That's why I think, like, I think the remake maybe had a line like, "Don't shoot anything," because it's like with the species that have never been seen before. It's like, do not shoot anything. Yeah. So I think that might have been like something to address the original film, which is just like, let's just shoot everything because we need a monkey.
Yeah, I also think that like, look, they spent their nut on the King Kong. They were like, look, we got Kong arms, we got Kong faces, we got Kong suits, we got. What about the dinosaurs? Fuck the dinosaurs. What? I already spent $20 million on them.
Yeah. We already got the shirts made. It's a monkey. It's not a dinosaur.
Yeah, because I guarantee they'd be pissed if like people in the movie was like, yeah, Kong was cool, but did you see that dinosaur?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Fuck that. Not on my watch. It's a King Kong movie, you jerks.
Yeah. Which could have been another reason to not put it in the remake.
Yeah, wow. I didn't think about that until we started talking about it. I'm glad we did. That's really cool, man. I really don't think that there's a lot left from the character standpoint or the action standpoint for us to mine. So it may be time to talk about how these movies choose to end themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
All right. We'll start with 1933 because one, it's simpler.
Yes.
It's simple as shit, and we get that great line that we've been alluding to. So, like we mentioned in 1933, after Kong takes out like pterodactyl or T-Rex and stuff like that, Jack and Anne run through the jungle, and they have that hilarious sequence I was talking about where she's getting whipped in the face. As they break through the gate, like you mentioned, Carl Denham throws that gas bomb.
Well, before that, I do want to bring up, we were talking about the action. We didn't really go into like when the natives fight Kong. It's also another pretty impressive feat because you do have real people there, and it looks like they are throwing spears into something that's clearly not in the same shot as them. So I just wanted to applaud the special effects during that sequence because it's pretty impressive seeing the natives fight this, this stop motion Kong.
Yeah. And it's something that's been great point. It's something that's been referenced so much because like I've seen like music videos and stuff like that where they try to emulate like that idea of like throwing them the spears, and it looks really good. It looks really good for the time. So once Denham hits Kong with his gas bomb and they tie him up, we basically go right into New York City. They go to Broadway and they have King Kong, the eighth wonder of the world. Arbitrarily, Anne and Jack are now engaged.
Sure, because he loves her, he guesses. That's how he said it. I think I love you, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. Big I guess there. And, they're brought on the stage to sort of join this Kong, and they're surrounded by the press, and you get like those old school cameras with the flash bulbs and stuff like that. And more or less, like Kong completely misinterprets what's happening. Gets pissed off and he starts breaking off. And what we haven't talked about yet, that awesome score that they have for King Kong.
Yes. It's pretty good.
Let's take a quick aside for that. That music works, dude. Like as much as we were saying like that live action stuff, like when that music plays, it does make him feel bigger. It makes him feel real. So like that score that Matt Steiner uses, I mean, it just works, dude. It's so good.
It's fantastic. The movie actually, we didn't talk about this. It actually starts with like an overture. It doesn't start with like any credits or anything. It's just this a shot from the movie. I don't know, just like a shot of something. I don't exactly know why. And then you just hear the score for a solid 5 minutes, maybe. And that it's interesting too, because like I usually, like when I was younger, I used to just fast forward through it, but obviously we're doing this comparison, so like it really does tell you what's going to come up in this movie. It's a little unsettling at times. The score, it's just like really slow, and then it gets like big and bombastic, and like marching goes dun 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 dun. So it's like like it's going to get really exciting, this adventure. So it does a really good way of just painting of like what's to come in this movie, opening the movie that way. I kind of like that. I kind of wish more movies just kind of let the movie just like take over.
I think so too. I thought that like that overture actually really worked. I mean, I was like, same thing. I was like kind of confused. Like, okay, so this is going on. Like, I started looking at the timestamp. Like, okay, this has been going on for a while. But no, it works. It like sort of like sets your mind to get ready to watch like this particular film. And
I was going to say just one more other fact. So this movie is actually credited with being the first feature-length movie to have like an orchestral score.
wow.
There are movies that maybe came out earlier, but for some reason this one's like really credited with that honor.
I think it just makes sense though, because like when you think about this score and what they're able to do with it, and like it's hard to make a puppet, you know, or like a stop action thing look interesting, but once you add that music to it, it's something else. And it just reminds me like the rapper Pharoah Monch samples that in one of his songs called Simon Says, and it's like that da 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 da, and then like when he does a beat, it's like da na na na, like and just like that idea of like King Kong and like Godzilla. Speaking of that movie that's coming out, does the same thing. Like when that stinger hits and like that monster comes out, it's climbing the building or it's coming out of the water. Yeah, dude, like the music is a huge part of what makes these like these sort of like American kaiju movies work. So good. Yeah. Well, now that we're done talking about how awesome the music is, King Kong, the eighth wonder of the world, sees these flash bulbs. He's like, fuck this. Breaks loose. The audience starts running away in terror. And they like get Anne out of there in the original film, and she's whisked away to a hotel room. And I'm not going to lie, the sequence feels a little bit better to me. Like Kong climbing the hotel, grabbing her out of there. Like that works a lot better than going to a random bar.
Whoa, is nothing wrong going to random bars and picking up chicks, Reggie?
Yeah, in the middle of the only and first giant ape rampage in the history of New York City. Whatever. But
we'll get to it when we talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I like that they keep it kind of like condensed like this, right? So once Kong has Anne continue this rampage with like his blonde sort of beauty in his hand, and we get come on, man, one of the greatest scenes in film history. King Kong climbing the Empire State Building. Yes, totally. Jack and randomly and some other people have planes now. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
They found planes with their little machine guns, and they're shooting at Kong. And like you said, just that swipe, making it look like he's on the building, making it look like the planes are surrounding him. Immediately recognizable to anyone. So, army, police are shooting at Kong. Jack runs to the top of the building with Denim following. The planes kind of like wait until King Kong, and this is where that human sort of empathy comes in. Kong puts Anne down because he recognizes the danger that she's in, and it is that moment in the film where it's like, okay, this Kong's not all bad. Like he's got this good streak in him, but he's mortally wounded by the planes as he's fighting them off. He gazes at Anne one last time before he's hit by more gunfire, falls from the tower to his death. And Jack and Anne and Denim reunite at the bottom of the building. Everyone's looking around. This very tragic, completely avoidable disaster. and as the street looks upon, someone's like, "Oh, the airplanes killed him." And Jack and Denim says, "Wasn't the airplanes? Wasn't the airplanes that killed this creature? Oh no, it was beauty towards killed the beast."
Well, Denim, the airplanes got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
And completely removes himself from the fact that he went to an island where he knew a native population existed. purely to make more money from filming his shoot, he took a random woman off the streets of New York City, put her in danger because the critics didn't like that he didn't have enough women in his movies. Threw gas bombs at this island's like national fucking treasure. Shot dinosaurs on the island. Enslaved a sentient being. Basically put him on Broadway for display.
I was gonna say, don't forget he also is the reason the natives' homes are destroyed too.
That's right. I keep forgetting about the natives, and we shouldn't, because their homes are destroyed. Many parts of New York City are destroyed. I'm sure we did some damage to the Empire State Building. And the only thing that this prick has to say is the opening line, the opening premise of his movie, "'Twas beauty that killed the beast." And I forget who they quote at the beginning of the movie.
It was an Arabian proverb, but I don't think it's really a proverb. I think it was made up.
Yeah, I think you're right. Which is basically like, the creature gazed upon her and was, transfixed. Like he was no longer like this cruel, violent beast because he gazed upon this beauty. And like they really wanted to stick that landing at the end. And it's just such a like cheesy hack line. I love it though. I'm glad that it's there. But it's just like just quite the villain move to be like, man, it wasn't helicopters or me or anything. It was just, beautiful woman. It's the fall of man, right, guys? All right. Well, non-refundable, those tickets. Non-refundable. Yeah. Look, I like the
Oh, sorry. So I found it here. That old Arabian proverb is actually a quote from the producer of the film. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. You could just do that. You could just,
you could just say old ancient proverb from lands we don't know about.
Yeah. The classic Confucius says is like, I don't think he did. But what I appreciate about this ending, one is like, I think that the scene with the Empire State Building, the planes, it's iconic, it's classic, it's neat, it's condensed. We get the gorilla to put Anne down, which brings him back into like this sort of like heroic thing, and the death becomes tragic. And although a complete dummy is kind of like moralizing it, it's still like, I think they stuck that landing pretty well. Not really that interested in what happens to Jack and Anne after that. No. They kind of allude to it, but not really that interesting to me. I think they're like, we realize that through our exploitation, we destroyed the mighty Kong, and it's a shame. Yeah. Damn shame.
It is a damn shame. No, it is a really solid ending. I knew about the iconic moment of him swatting at planes on top of the Empire State Building, but like they really did a great job. I say like he's not really able to emote or be so sympathetic in the original film, but there are moments like towards the end of his demise when he does put Anne down, and he's been shot up a bunch, and he's just kind of like, he kind of knows it's over, and he's just kind of like there and just like trying to like, I don't know, just be with Anne like for one final moment. And it's really is a beautiful moment in the film. I didn't expect to feel watching that old film, but it's just great. It's just him, and then he's just trying to be with Anne. I'm done fighting. It's over. I just want to be with her, and he's still getting fucking shot too. It really is heartbreaking. And they, when you think of a movie that's almost 90 years old, to do that for a stop motion gorilla, it's quite incredible. What a feat. Yeah. Bravo.
Again, super effective, because like at that moment too, I agree that like I'm Team Kong, man.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, guys? Yeah. Can we stop shooting them? And like, they're not going to. Yeah. And it's it's legitimately sad. I'm just kind of bummed out.
Yeah.
Kudos, like you mentioned, kudos to the film for just pulling that off. Brilliant choice to make the Empire State Building. I mean, like you can't beat that. It's like everyone knows what that is. Mm-hmm. The idea of like this giant ape or hanging off of the Empire State Building. You don't even have to see the movie, right? Like I had never really seen the movie, but I knew about that scene, and I knew about that end, and I don't know, it's just so well done. Can't say enough about it. really what I really enjoy about it is that it's concise.
Yeah, it's really cool too because you know the Empire State Building's been around forever. The Empire State Building was only finished construction in 1930, 3 years before the film came
Wow.
out. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That's really cool. That's really cool. The remake.
Or no, that's when construction started, I should say. So, it was actually finished in 1931. My bad.
Wow,
So,
so
wow,
2 years
really,
before.
even newer.
That's pretty cool. The remake.
The remake.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try this. So the remake, you know, like we said, we had this pit trap on the island in this island off the Indian Ocean. They're not really calling it Skull Island, but it's Skull Island, right?
Right.
They got the pit, they got the chloroform. Like I mentioned, we get these extra scenes, and beyond just the fact that they captured Kong, we also know in this original film that though there was oil there, it's a bust. The oil is of poor quality. So Fred Wilson character, he's got completely pivot. And his pivot is, I'm taking Kong back to New York City. As I mentioned, on the tanker on their way back, we get this more sort of humanized caged Kong moment, which, you know, adds a little bit of that sadness, even though Judith Lang is kind of hamming it up.
Jessica Lange?
Yeah, sorry. And even though Jessica Lange is kind of hamming it up. So basically, Kong becomes this gimmick for his little Petrox oil company. When they reach New York City, Kong's put on display in a similar way. A lot more, how do you put it?
Frenzy?
Definitely a lot more frenzied, a lot more of a display. Like, yes, even though we had the King Kong, the eighth wonder of the world, the original film, this is that glitz and lights that we're getting from this display is a bit more. And like we mentioned, at this point in the film, Jack is like, I don't want anything to do with your little circus, basically. Mm-hmm. We got more interaction between our sort of lead and villain as well, because the lead basically like, I'm fed up. I don't want to be part of your little thing.
And he tries to get Dwan to join him, but she reneges.
Yeah. So that part is interesting, right? When Dawn tries to join him, and when he wants Dawn to join him, and she's like, I don't know, man, flashing lights, dude. Like, this is what I came here for. I'm here for the show. So like, that's a bold move, making Dwan, who's already pretty unlikable, more likable because she's like so self-interested here, and like
right.
Jeff Bridges' kind of disappointment there is palpable, really. You want to try to do this part? I'm
sure.
Like,
yeah, sure. So I'll just take it from there. So yeah, Jack's trying to leave, and he's like, "Oh, fuck you! I don't want your money. Come on, Dwan, come with me." And then, like you said, she's like, "No, this is why I'm here. You don't understand, Jack. Surely you can understand, but Jack can't understand." And he kind of gives her this look, like, "All right, it's over." He kind of walks away, but he doesn't leave. He does stay to see the frenzy, I guess, as I called it. So there's this huge thing where. It's like a stadium. I would say like the original is more like these upperclassmen going to like theater, while the remake just seems like ordinary people going to see monster trucks or something. That's kind of the feel of each movie. At least that's the way I thought it looked. Anyway, so there's like a ton of people, like a stadium full of people, and then Fred Wilson is just like, he's just yucking it up like, we got it, we got this thing, you're gonna be blown away while we show you what's under this huge gas station pump thing, because they got this, like you said, this Petrox thing. So Kong's not just in a cage, he's like covered in this huge gas station pump which is lifted off of him, and then it's unveiled that it's Kong. It's like pretty cruel. It's just like in this cage you can't even fucking move because the cage is so tight, and not only is he caged up, he's also chained up, his hands and his legs. And they, for some reason, decided to reenact the sacrifice of Anne. So she is also tied up the way she was tied up on Skull Island. Sure, why not? And then while after Kong's been unveiled, he can see her and then all the press comes up to her and they start like hounding her, and then Kong interprets that she's in danger. So what does Kong do? He does what he does best and just starts to break out of the chains. So he breaks out of the chains, and then Wilson's like, "Don't worry, he's still in that cage." Rips open the cage. He's like, "Don't worry, his feet are still chained up." Rips off the chains on his feet. It's like everything he's saying is just going terribly wrong, and he eventually gets out, and then everybody just starts to scatter. And Kong's loose, and he does see Fred Wilson there, and he just fucking, you just for you, man, just steps on him, squishes him, and you see his foot just like totally flatten him out, and then they lift the foot. I'm like, they're gonna show it. Oh, show me, but they don't show you his body after that. I wish they did. Be bold, movie. Anyway, so he's causing a frenzy. Everybody in New York's like, "Oh, everybody just stay indoors. You will be fired upon if you're seen." And it's pretty funny too, because like there are helicopters going around, and then there's this one moment where like Kong like sees a helicopter and he like hides behind a building. He's like, whoa, maybe if I just hide here, they won't see the giant ape flying around New York. So while this is happening, of course, Jack and Dwan are escaping, and like we mentioned before, Dwan's like, "You know what, Jack? I really could use a drink." It's like Jack's like, "No, 10 more blocks and we'll be completely safe. What are you doing?" Yeah, but I could also use a drink. And he's like, "Fine, I guess we'll do that." So they go to an empty bar because every place has been abandoned. Everybody's just hiding in their homes. And then they just talk. And it's like, you want King Kong raging through New York, and you get boring Dwan just talking to Jack. And it's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And then like finally like dawns upon Jack. Dawn, get it? It finally dawns upon Jack that where King Kong might be going, because for some reason the Twin Towers look like something that I don't remember seeing earlier in the movie.
Yeah, I know.
It was pretty weak, but he figures out that he's gonna go to the Twin Towers. So Jack calls the government. He calls somebody on the phone and tells them like, "I'll tell you where King Kong's going, but you can't hurt him. You just have to like trap him with nets, because that'll work." So everybody's like, "All right, we're gonna send people there and we won't hurt him." But like while they're doing this, Kong's like, "I found you." So he goes and he grabs Dwan, very stealthy, I must say, for a giant monster. He's able to get her, and like it's funny too, because like he's really slow, and Dwan's kind of just like, all right. Like she doesn't really fight him. She doesn't try to run. She just gets taken by Kong. Jack sees him. It's like, "No!" And like starts to chase. And like we said, he's got to climb the building. He does not climb the Empire State Building in this. Instead, he climbs the Twin Towers, which also, like, this movie came out in 1976. The Twin Towers finished construction in the early 70s, so they were pretty new at the same time too. So he climbs up one of the towers. He's able to make it to the top. And again, we have armed soldiers climb up to the tower, and they got fucking flamethrowers, and they're just trying to burn him, man. It's like, damn, this is fucking cruel. So he's like, fuck this. He jumps from one tower to the other. He throws something at them. They fucking explode. He's like, "Fuck you for trying to burn me, assholes. I'm the king." And then they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" So like Jack's like in the other tower that he jumped off of, so he's like just watching at this point. He's helpless. He can't really do anything. And then the army brings out their helicopters, and they got fucking these huge ass Gatling guns. They're not fucking about. They're not the little dinky guns they had on the planes in the original film. They got these fucking powerful things that will turn anything into Swiss cheese, even King Kong. And it does pretty much. Like they just destroy him. Like he's covered in blood.
Pretty graphic.
Yeah, they're like, he's just being blown apart. He can't do anything. He's able to take out maybe one or two helicopters, but it's just too much firepower for him. He does put Dwan down. He does have that moment again of humanity, like, I gotta save her. And she even says, "No, don't put me down, because they'll kill you if you put me down." He's like, "I love you, stay safe." So he gets shot a lot. Finally, just like goes down. He doesn't fall immediately. Like he kind of has like one quick moment with Dwan, and then he falls off the Twin Towers and falls to his death. Ultimately, there's no stupid line about Beauty and the Beast, but like there's another frenzy. There's just tons of people around his body. Somehow Dwan gets down there. I don't exactly know, but she's at the bottom too, and then she's like freaking out. She's like, "Jack, Jack." Jack starts running towards her, and then he stops, and he's like, "No." He's like, "This is kind of her, and I don't want any part of this actually. So, you know, you think we're gonna have our love interest reunite at the end, but Jack ultimately decides no, when the movie kind of just ends with her screaming for Jack. It's actually a pretty dark ending.
Yeah.
All things considered. I mean, obviously the death of King Kong is pretty dark, but like even for our protagonist, like you think they're gonna have a happy ending, they don't.
Which I can appreciate, right? Like
yes.
I think that given what we know about Dwan, who's kind of like this sort of like free spirit, kind of free agent, who's made her choice. She chose kind of fame over everything else. And even though she may have had this revelation after the fact, like she already crossed this bridge that like Jeff Bridges character is not, he's done with her. And it's really sad. Like when you see that ending, like just the sheer amount of firepower, like you mentioned, the flamethrowers, the Gatling guns and stuff like that, like it's so much more visceral the way they take out this Kong.
Yeah.
And because I think there are moments where the humanizing doesn't really work, but because they put in that work, it is even more tragic as this character falls to his death on this like concrete. And it's more tragic that it's not going to work out for our leads either. So I do appreciate the movie taking those big swings.
Yeah.
And I really like a lot of the set piece action in the city, like when he takes out that subway train. I thought that was really cool. And stuff like that. Like I don't know, like breaking it up with that bar scene though.
Yeah, that was
strange.
I would take that out. I wouldn't put that in. That's dumb. What you do is you just hide in a building or something like in the original, and then he can climb a building and take her out, because that's such a cool moment to see his face and just reaching in. But like no, I gotta hunch over this underground bar, by the way, kind of like Cheers, where the steps go down. It's like how the fuck did he find her?
I know.
Like it makes sense. He's climbing a building and just like, oh yeah, there she is. But like randomly wandering through New York and finding her in a dive bar, I don't know. That was a weak part. That's the weakest part of the ending for sure.
Yeah. But I think that one of the big things we get, and I think you mentioned this a little bit in your description, there is a difference in the feeling, right? Like this sort of high society, theater crowd that's like gaze upon this guy off of Broadway.
$20 for a ticket. How absurd.
Yeah. And like even the woman's disappointment was like, it's not a movie. Why the fuck am I here? This is whack. And, here it is. Like I really do like the original kind of set, like the eighth wonder of the world and the way he's tied up. It just that looks better than this little tiny sad cage, The remake just felt kind of like, and it makes sense because it's the 70s, it just felt more like commercial, right? You got the Petrox pump, you got this these flashy lights and all this stuff, the guy on the mic. And even like the way Kong dies, like the way the crowd sort of gawks at him, it feels more like consumerist, more capitalist in a way. Like the original was like, such a tragedy. How could this have happened? The remake is just like, well, damn, look at that. And like, it's just more of the common people.
Yeah.
And it feels more like, besides the failure of like that one guy, it feels like a failure of our society that like, this happened to Kong.
Yeah, it's a pretty realistic take. I mean, if it happened today, it'd pretty much be the same thing, except people would be taking selfies in front of his dead body. Hey, check it out, dead eighth wonder of the world. So I do like how everything's just like increased, like the crowd, just the frenzy, as I keep referring it. I like that inclusion.
And the way that they pull off like his last moments, like that concrete under him being busted up and stuff. It's just a really cool shot. Again, that humanizing emotion coming off of Kong really sells this sad ending. And look, I prefer that you opt for a sad ending. I think that
of course
it works really well. The original, like the sort of optimism of Jack and Anne's future, it's kind of offset by like what we saw. Like I don't really care what happens to them.
Exactly. Well, the movie doesn't end with them, so I guess you're able to kind of let go of that from the original film. But I do like the decision, the remake, to not have them just embrace each other, to have Jack go no, I don't want you. You have your press. This is what you want. So go. I no, I'm not coming to you, even though she's screaming for his name. And he just said no. What a bold choice. And I think it's definitely the right one, because it would have been so off-putting to just have them hugging and kissing over while Kong's course is just like, right there, it's still fresh. So I really like the decision to have them be at dire straits with their relationship, as opposed to this happily we're gonna get married soon still.
It's just a great choice. Like it's a great choice to do it that way. And it just goes back to, if you think about like while you're watching the film, it's like, besides her looks, like what do these two have in common? Like this guy's a paleontologist, she's like kind of an airhead, and she is pretty, I don't want to say selfish, but she's pretty like self-centered. She's mostly concerned with herself. That's very apparent when, even after she's like interacts with Kong and has this relationship with him, she's willing to sell him out for fame and fortune. So yeah, man, I think that that type of character getting that type of ending was very appropriate. I'm glad they stuck their guns and didn't do a cheesy Hollywood finish.
Yeah, agreed.
So, brutal what they did to Kong in that.
Bloody! It's insane. Like his fur is just covered in blood. It's like, oh man, it's really
tough to watch. Actually, tough to watch. Yeah.
Sad endings. Damn us, we're the real monsters. It's a man.
Yeah, like I mean that's the ending. I know we talked about this a little bit, but going back to the music, with the overture in the original, with that dun, 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 like that little stinger or whatever, the music was very memorable in the original, and I'm struggling to remember. I'm struggling to remember a lot about the remake's music. Hold up, I got the guy's name here. I'm struggling to remember what like John Barry did here. I don't know, maybe because it's such a character study. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just really don't remember how the music was in the movie, which could be a good thing if it doesn't take you out of it. Then it did its job, but just not as memorable as the score in the original film. I don't even think it was like an interpretation, or was that music from the original? I don't think it was.
I don't think it was.
I think it was a completely original. Yeah. So it's serviceable. Worked when it worked. It got the job done. It didn't really take me out of it, but just that score in the original, it's definitely, that overture was a great idea. And I love how they use the music too. Like after you hear the music in that opening, you don't hear really music again until they're on the island and like they're doing the ceremony for Kong. It's like they use the music very sparingly in the original film, which I think just helps it. It just makes it more memorable that way, because like when you hear the music, it's kind of like the Jaws theme thing, right? You hear the Jaws theme, oh, I know the Jaws is coming. You hear kind of Kong's music, oh, something's going to happen with Kong. And they just use it really well in the original film, as opposed to the remake where, I can't remember how they use the music, but I'm sure it was good because I didn't complain. So
yeah. I think the only time I'm really remembering music is sort of the Skull Island type scene, like the native kind of music in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned, it doesn't take you out of the movie at all. In fact, it blends really well with the fact that like we're not making huge notes on it. But that original, when you hear the music, it's on, right? Like it's about to go down. And I would say that overall, the music in the original, just the amount of times I've heard that sound sampled in different things, it's perfect. So I guess we're at the point now where we have to ask ourselves, Dan, should this remake of King Kong exist?
Should the remake exist? So the remake is a whopping half an hour longer than the original. I think the original is about 1:45. The remake's 2 hours and 15 minutes. And the original, and the remake is able to do things to differentiate itself. It changes our kind of lead villain. He's no longer a director. He's looking for oil. And I do like the portrayal of that character. I like Jeff Bridges' Jack. There's definitely weak points with Jessica Lange's Dwan. Definitely the weakest link in the movie. But they did some interesting things there with the special effects. They didn't stick with the motion capture. They did a guy in an animatronic suit, which I think is pretty interesting. They changed the ending location. The original film, the climax is on the Empire State Building, which was recently constructed, and then the remake ends on the Twin Towers, which were also recently constructed. And I don't know, I think that's a solid choice. There's a lot of good decisions in the remake. I don't know, I was engaged enough, and I think it should exist. I like Jeff Bridges' character. I like Charles Grodin's character, the Fred Wilson. I thought he's a much better villain. Dawn, definitely the weakest part. I could definitely appreciate the animatronics. Like, I'm a big practical special effects guy, so doing something different without going completely off the rails. I really like what they did, and it's pretty solid. I'd say. I mean, let me think. I thought it was a pretty good film overall. I mean, the classic is what it is. But I think they did enough different things, and it was just interesting to me to see. And other than Dawn, I think I really enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah. Jumping in myself, I would say, yeah, Dawn is clearly a problem with the film, but in some ways too, this kind of madcap, unhinged character. There's something kind of appealing about getting that on film too. I'm just like, what a weird choice, right? Jeff Bridges just really helps ground this film and make you kind of want to watch it, especially with that runtime, right?
Yeah,
I need Jeff Bridges there, because if it's someone less charismatic, someone less interesting, I don't think I finished the movie, right? But because of his acting, holds up really well. Like we mentioned, the Fred Wilson character, that a strong foil that keeps things sort of interesting throughout the film, and finds a lot of humor out of that character, even in his villainy. I struggle with some of the animatronics, or how they decided to use it. Like I said, the blow drying stuff, weird. The hand not just grabbing the guy, a little weak. But look, that stuff did capture my imagination when I was young. Like I mentioned, I went to Universal Studios. I was in the hand. They got that scale right. So because they did a good job of fleshing out the story with the oil company and stuff like that, giving us a little bit more kind of something to chew on in terms of the story, and overall making this sort of empathetic human Kong, with Jeff Bridges ultimately being kind of like our nice little moral compass. I thought that the movie definitely was solid enough to exist. I still think I prefer overall the original movie. If I had to watch it again, I think I would be watching that one. But the remake has a relatively strong cast, and I definitely enjoyed watching the film, and it should exist.
Yeah, I think the human characters, maybe except for Dawn, are just have better stories, better arcs in the remake for sure. We keep bringing back Jeff Bridges' character just because he's just such a good character. Yeah. So much better than the Jack in the original film, which is so forgettable. I mean, the star of the original film is definitely the stop motion, hands down, easily. The animatronics are pretty impressive in the remake, but without Jeff Bridges, that movie doesn't really work, I don't think. So you need that strong lead actor, and thankfully Jeff Bridges is able to do what he does. So while I like all the special effects, and I think I prefer all the Kong scenes of the original film, the characters are just minus Dawn, the characters are a step up in the remake for sure.
Totally. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that human element is what puts this movie into that camp of should exist and watchable.
Yep.
So because I can remove 99%. Well, pretty much you can remove every human actor in the original film, and it's still and you still could pull that movie off. You cannot say the same about this remake.
No. Nope. Cool.
Well, that was King Kong.
That was our King Kong. All right. So we got to pick a new episode for next time.
Yeah, I've done zero thought on this.
I've been putting some thought into it. I was leaning towards sci-fi because I know Kong's kind of, man, I don't know, how would you classify it? As fantasy, sci-fi?
Yeah,
It's kind of monster, horror, maybe even. I was kind of leaning towards The Day the Earth Stood Still. Actually, just kidding. Let's actually do Justice League for next week.
We changed our minds.
Yeah, we changed our minds.
We're allowed to do that.
Yeah. So Justice League, the Whedon cut versus Snyder cut. That's what we'll call it for now. That does it for us. That was our comparison of the King Kong films. What did you guys think? Did you agree with us? Did you disagree with us? Did we miss something? Please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, as always, thanks for watching. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Retro versus Remake. You can listen to this. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify. I'm sure we're on Google Play probably. And check us out on YouTube at Retro versus Remake. What are we doing? Please like, subscribe, 5-star ratings, all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. It helps the platform when you do so. And as always, thank you for joining us.
All right.
And I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. This has been another episode of Retro versus Remake.
He's had enough.